So I think I can divide your service into two main parts from your discussion, sir. First one is for the educational side, and the other one is for the industry side. So what are the things you can do on behalf of your institute to the educational side, and what are the things you can do to the industry side?
Yeah, so when you say education side, the academic side,
Yes.
what we can help is targeting the undergraduates, those who are still studying to become biomedical engineers, or those who want to, work in the healthcare field. I think what we can share with them is practical, hands-on knowledge on managing medical devices. I think one of the gaps that we see is after we have these young biomedical engineers who graduate, they may not have had a chance or opportunity to actually open up a medical device, perform a preventive maintenance task, or even do some troubleshooting for repair. So we have competency training programs that we can work with the university to integrate this into the curriculum, right? So as when the students are studying, they are learning all the theoretical aspects of the medical device, we can also share our program where it has the practical or hands-on components, which allows the students to really see, okay, what are the real problems out there in the real world, and we teach them how to perform preventive maintenance, how to a few troubleshooting techniques, and also provide them guidance on the technology trends, and commonly reported problems out there. So at least when they graduate, and go into the market, they will be more adept, or they'll be more prepared to what's facing them. So that's on the academic side. On the industry side, as what I mentioned earlier as well, that we can look at the biomedical engineering practices in Sri Lanka. We can offer our membership services so that hospitals can become members of ECRI, and they can access our databases that are exclusive for members. And in those databases, they have access to all sorts of information, from evaluation and guidance articles for medical devices, product comparisons for medical devices, hazards and recalls, for safety of medical devices, and all up to the health technology assessment information that I mentioned. So these databases, reports, are all available if they become members of ECRI. And other ways is for us to actually come in and do that assessment, which I mentioned. How are people, how's the industry managing medical devices or health technology in general? And maybe we can share some of the best practices or good practices that we have seen.
Okay, really great, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, what do you think about the current healthcare industry, the current job market?
Oh, the current, okay. I think that may differ from country to country. I mean, currently because of the pandemic, that everyone is impacted differently. But I think for biomedical engineers in the healthcare industries, I have personally seen, I think the demand is still there. Whether if you look at generally the public sector or the private sector, they are still hiring, but maybe it's not as fast as the year before. But I see that slowly this year in 2021, we do see the market recovering, and I think there are more job prospects opening up. I mean, what we always say is that, within the country, you can't find opportunities. Just look at the whole Asia Pacific region. I think if you look in the region here, Asia Pacific as one, I mean, across the various countries, there is definitely a need for biomedical engineers.
Okay, because as long as I know from the Indian Biomedical Engineering Society and the Sri Lankan Biomedical Engineering Society, everyone, each and every year, every biomedical engineers are getting passed out from the universities, but they don't have enough opportunities to work in the hospital or in the healthcare sector as a biomedical engineer, because the industry is not quite that much big to offer them as a biomedical engineer or that kind of job. So they just go into the marketing side, and they just go into the other sides as well. So that's what I asked about your opinion on the current job market for the biomedical engineers in the industry.
Right. I mean, I would say that just because you're a biomedical engineer doesn't mean we cannot go into the sales or marketing line. I think it all depends on the interest of the person as well. I mean,
Yeah, that's also really true.
I've come across biomedical engineers who end up working in banks or even other non-healthcare industries, right? Maybe it's because of their interest. But if you are looking at core biomedical engineering, I mean, as an engineering discipline, yeah, sometimes maybe certain markets depends on how many graduates your country is churning out. You know, it may get saturated very fast. But you can explore, even if you can't work in the industry, look at the academic side, go into research and development. But you may have to look at other countries out there. I mean, I think in Malaysia, Singapore, uh, Philippines, Indonesia, I see that there's still a big need for biomedical engineers there.
Okay. So, how about the pandemic situation? I mean, the COVID-19 situation in your country?
Well, currently, I think we have the recent wave, which stabilizing now, and I think that I mean it has proved a challenge to some of the biomedical engineers as well in performing their day-to-day duties. I mean, we are not biomedical engineers. Maybe are not really the direct frontliners, but we are kind of behind the frontliners, supporting the frontliners, right? So, but I think this pandemic situation has for new challenges to us. For example, some of them from the feedback that I've heard that on the early days of the pandemic last year, where they may have trouble getting parts for some of the repairs and trying to get adequate equipment, certain equipment like ventilators or patient monitors, which became very high in terms of demand. They could not obtain that at that point. So many of them started being innovative and started designing their own medical devices. But I think now that situation has become better. I think now we have adequate medical equipment going around. But also there were a lot of challenges when it comes to questions being asked of biomedical engineers. Like I think at one point, people, hospitals were asking biomedical engineers about if there's a shortage of ventilators, can we connect multiple patients to one ventilator, right? So I think that question the biomedical engineers have to answer carefully, right, from the perspective of safety, not only based on the functionality of the device, but also on safety. And all this kind of questions were being asked to biomedical engineers. And I think if we are strong in the fundamentals and we understand the principles of operation of these devices, then we'll be able to answer it well. And so I guess it was kind of a unique situation for biomedical engineers in this instance. But I think most of them did well. I mean, there was a good experience for all those involved working in the hospitals, especially. Yeah. So I think so far, good. The situation is improving now in terms of the pandemic.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Because that was my next question: how the COVID situation impacted on the healthcare industries, particularly on the biomedical engineering side. So you have already mentioned the ventilator and the important medical devices. Thank you so much. Okay. So since you are representing ECRI, I would like to ask on behalf of the freshers or the students or the job seekers. So what are the recommendations you can give to the freshers of biomedical engineers who are just passing out from the universities? So maybe you can give some kind of advices on which area you can focus on in order to get the jobs properly. What are the recommendations or advices you can give, sir?
Right. I think the first thing that we as employers will look at is communication skills. I think probably all of you have heard this over and over again, the importance of communication. So I think this is one of the key areas that if the graduates can brush up on their things like presentation skills on how they present themselves or present their ideas to a small crowd, and the way they speak, the language wise, and also on writing abilities. right? If you have good skills in writing, that will be very helpful for, over the career of a biomedical engineer. And all this also depends on the area that they want to explore. So if you are a young graduate in biomedical engineering and you say, oh, I want to actually go into teaching, I want to be a lecturer and do research, then I mean, very early on, if you're looking at an academic career, then they should probably look at studying further up to maybe a master's or PhD level, so that they can go along that path. But then if some of them want to go towards industry, and even in industry, there are many areas you can go towards consulting, you can go towards a medical device, manufacturers or vendors or selling medical devices, or you can even go into research and development, also related to manufacturers. So depends on the areas that they are interested in. I think, if you decide that I want to go towards this specific sector or specific area, then they should prepare themselves for that. So if you want to go towards consulting, I mean, you should, again, communication skills are essential. And you need to be well versed. You need to read a lot, well versed with developments in the industry related to new technologies, how things are changing and how it's impacting healthcare. If you go in to work with a manufacturer or vendor, it depends on what areas. You may go into sales, marketing, you may go into research development, you may even go into regulatory affairs. So if you are going to specific areas, I think you should brush up on the knowledge required for that specific area, right? And I think the one thing that we should do is, although we might be, we have a job and we are working, always look at continuously learning, studying, try to,
they have to keep update themselves.
Keep update yourself, and try to get certificates or degrees, additional degrees that will help you along the way. I think like what you have done, right? You also furthered your studies, and that will be helpful along the way, right? Maybe at that point you may not see the immediate benefit, but over your career you'll see that, oh, I'm lucky I actually got my master's or my PhD along the way.
Okay. So let's say you are recruiting for ECRI. So do you expect any kind of special skills? Or these are the skills you have mentioned already?
Well, right? other than the communication skills I mentioned, what we really look at, because we try to recruit those that have the ability to think independently, critical thinking and problem solving skills. I think that's one of the skills that we look at. So, I mean, it's easy to say, okay, we need you to solve a problem, you have critical thinking skills, but what I actually mean is that if a person is faced with a situation, how does that person as a consultant come up with a solution for a client, right? So maybe what we normally come across is that a client comes to us and say, okay, I'm having this kind of issue or this kind of problem or this kind of challenge in my hospital. What should I do? So as a consultant for ECRI, we should be able to come up and say that, okay, this is what you have, this is what you should have, this is how to address your gaps, and this is how, for us to implement certain things for you so that you can solve that problem. So those kind of thinking skills are important. And yes, most of them come from experience. Experience helps. But of course, the critical thinking of how you solve problems for others, that becomes essential. So I think that's the additional skill that ECRI would be looking at.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So we are going to finish this interview. So I would like to ask you, what would you like to say about our healthcare engineering platform, and would you like to give us some advices, or maybe you can advise to our subscribers as well?
I think, Gaston, what you have done with the healthcare engineering platform is very good. You are getting people together, united in one platform and sharing information. This is what I want to congratulate you for being very consistent, in sharing information. I think you're very innovative in engaging the audience in the healthcare engineering platform. But I think eventually what we need is this, right? You be sharing whatever latest happenings in the industry that can benefit the community. And eventually, maybe healthcare engineering channel, you can also start organizing your own activities and maybe even a cross-country platform. I mean, because you're not only looking at Sri Lanka, I mean, you're looking at beyond Sri Lanka. And hopefully in the future, you can involve other countries across Asia Pacific all onto a common platform where I think the world can become much smaller for us, where we can share our experiences, we can share knowledge on this platform. Anyone has any questions, they just have to type it in and someone will be there to answer it. So I think it's a very commendable effort from your end, Yason. So well done with your channel.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your appreciation. So the main idea of our healthcare engineering platform is just getting the idea from the well-resourced person like you and just sharing it with the other guys or the new students and the other professionals who are not aware of these areas particularly. So that was our aim. So I would like to say a huge thank you for your valuable time allocated for us to give this interview. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Gaston, and I'm happy to share my knowledge with you and your audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We are looking forward to work with ECRI in future, and we would like to learn from you a lot, and we would like to give the services on behalf of you in our regions.
Sure. That sounds good. Thank you very much, Gaston.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
It's a good night.
Okay, sir. Let's end the session.